Welcome back. I'm Elliot.
We're back. I'm Spencer.
And we are super excited to have you guys for this next matchup. We are not going to waste too much time, and we're just going to jump right in here and show you guys the deck lists of our next two players.
I'm really excited for this one.
Let's see what we've got.
There's some spicy stuff going on here. Well, spicy is maybe not the right word, but fun.
Coming in on the first side, we have and believe it or not, this is exactly what it is. We have the yellow starter deck. This is out of the box what we see. Spencer, could you tell us a little bit about what this deck does?
Yes, so this is literally the yellow starter, and you might say, well, I think we're in a later round. Shouldn't this be the top players? And it is. And it is.
Unbelievable.
So, Kavothe playing a deck. Now, there's, I think, maybe one or two changes here when I'm looking at it. Maybe one more, check the yellow pages and some stuff like that. But this is basically the yellow starter deck, almost to a T, inclusive of only the rares that are in the yellow starter deck. And you love to see it. Someone going this deep in the tournament, playing a deck right off the shelf. This deck is going wide. You're trying to get your extrovert penguins to be as big as possible by putting inquisitive penguins in play, as well as other small penguins. You're trying to get a quick and early penguin who's late to the party by putting those inquisitive penguins as well, and also your shy penguin, letting you play that early. We talked about these 10 vibe penguins being strong. A couple of ways to bounce penguins back to your hand and play them again. Now, your finishing move is going to be put your flippers in the air and not your keys. We've seen a lot of people upgrade the yellow starter deck with things like Buddy Up and some other cards, but it looks like this person went for a pretty streamlined approach. There's not that much to say here, but it's just cool to see someone this deep in the tournament rocking literally a starter deck. And that just goes to show you, if you're curious about playing vibes, you don't need a fortune to get into the game. This is half of a starter deck kit that costs $30 to join. And it's just incredible to see someone going this deep in such a relevant tournament. And it's not to say that there aren't other strong decks around. Certainly this person has to have beat some others. Let's take a look at the other deck, potentially.
Absolutely. And on the other side, we have Suarez. We have seen him on stream before, and he is running what at this point should just be a name that you've heard over and over again.
I mean, it's the deck of the weekend, for sure.
So, Spencer, tell us a little bit about Suarez's build of Bizbunk.
I mean, this is a pretty stock build. When I think of what Bizbunk should be, one of the big questions is you see only 3 Whats. What is a card that usually there is, going to be 4 of. Sometimes we've seen some go with none. 3 is a pretty good approach. Study All Night, another card we see 3 of. This is making room for Not a Rot Anymore and Gothams. Not a Rot Anymore is kind of a spicy inclusion. It's not crazy. We see it in a bunch of lists. This is pretty close to some of the lists that we've seen, but this is a pretty stock one, so maybe we'll just dive into the game.
Let's do it.
Oh, and another interesting thing here is the Penguin Who Breaks the Fourth Wall, only 2 of those. We see some lists have 4. They kind of go back and forth.
Sure thing.
Suarez, a longtime Magic player, and recently a Vibes grinder.
Absolutely. Suarez has really been climbing the ranks there. We're going to jump in here and see what everyone's mulliganing. For those who aren't that familiar with the yellow starter, I want us to pay attention to a couple of penguins. The first thing that we're really going to want to look for here is Extrovert Penguin. This penguin is the pride and joy of the deck. It starts at 2 vibe, and it continues to grow turn after turn. Yellow also starts pretty fast, so it looks like...
I mean, a flying penguin off the bat. We don't see a lot of turn 1 plays in this game at all, right? There's not a lot of 1-drops. That's one of them.
So, looks like Kavothe is going to start us off with that flying penguin. And this deck is, again, and one thing I just want to make sure that the audience knows going in, has no tech. Kavothe is not only playing the yellow starter deck, which is obviously a pretty cheap deck to assemble, and has don't have to crack any packs in order to build. It's got nothing to answer some of these other decks that people have been planning to beat all weekend. The big one, Bizbunk. So I think this is going to be an especially interesting matchup, considering that Suarez's deck is known as the deck to beat.
But oftentimes, Elliot, and this is true in a lot of games, like some of the meta decks are so fine-tuned for the meta that they often struggle against simpler decks, right? And this is a deck. The yellow starter, when the game first launched online, this is a deck that was 60 to 80% of the meta, was versions of the yellow starter. It's a strong deck, and things have evolved past it, but it wasn't there for no reason, right?
Okay.
Like, this is a deck that has a lot of strength, but Penguin is okay. Probably the strongest card in Bizbunk. I mean, this is really the enabler. This gets the things going, as they say, and without things like Gotham, because, again, it's not an upgraded deck, there's not a lot of early answers to a lot of the Penguins that John is going to have here. And that's going to be the challenge for Kavothe going into this match is, when you're playing against something like Bizbunk, you got to answer Ascending Penguins. You got to answer a lot of stuff they have. And oh my goodness, out the gates, this is what we talked about, though. This yellow deck is fast. We have a 10 vibe Penguin, and Suarez is sitting here with just 2 rods in play. Now, he'll get another opportunity to play something this turn. He's got this Popcorn Penguin in hand, but actually Inquisitive Penguin is a card that we didn't see a lot of play for quite a while. It's coming back as a way to answer Popcorn Penguin because it will eat the Popcorn Penguin instead of some of the other more relevant cards that you have.
I'll
because it
correct you
has
there.
just one
Get
vibe.
eaten by the Popcorn Penguin, but yes, I hear you. That having that one vibe is something that's very unique in this game. To jump back into where we're at in the game, it looks like Kavothe's been accelerating pretty quickly here. Getting that Shy Penguin out means that he's going to be winning the next few vibe checks. Now again, for those of you who are vibe literate, you know that winning these early vibe checks is really deck dependent, whether or not this is something you actually want. In this matchup, you gotta wonder, do you really want to win all those early vibe checks? Well, it certainly might be bad for Suarez to lose them. Suarez needs those rods in play to get out his Ascending Penguin, which ultimately is the first part of his combo. Getting that Penguin who's okay will give him a little bit of fuel in the tank early game, and is certainly a pretty good card. But we have to wonder, is this, Kavothe's making a bet here, and we have to see if it's going to pay off. So looks like Suarez is peeking at his rods and determining what he's going to do next. But after this, we'll hop into the action time, and I imagine at this point we'll find out if Kavothe really wants to win that vibe check, and determining if he's going to try to flop it or not.
Let's see. And again, the question here is going to be, can Kavothe get to enough cards in order to win fast enough? He does not have the strongest answers to what John's about to do. And so Check the Yellow Page is a card which he has 4 of, and I think that's actually an interesting part of this conversation. Very, very relevant here. Now, unfortunately, this Inquisitive Penguin does not produce Pudge. It is a colorless penguin, and so Kavothe does not have enough resources. Now, why is this relevant? Well, despite being very fast in vibes, it's not always great. Being ahead on board early is not as important as in a lot of other trading card games because you need 15 cards, physical cards, to win the game. And so cards like Check the Yellow Pages in the yellow deck help yellow win on an earlier turn by giving it more cards. If you can hit 3 penguins off Check the Yellow Pages, you're in really good shape. Now,
looks like Kavothe is going in on his turn. He's played that rod. One thing that we should bring to your attention is that Suarez has managed to get a Bunkus in the ice already, which is going to be critical for the next stages of the game. So now that players know about that, that's going to be something that you're going to want to keep an eye out for.
This is a heads-up play by Kavothe, and we talk about this. There's both a Check the Yellow Pages and Not Your Keys in hand. This is why a lot of yellow players stopped playing the Inquisitive Penguins, was because how important is that Pudge reduction that it doesn't have here? With another yellow source, Kavothe could have checked the Yellow Pages there, gotten deeper in the deck, and used more of this fish, right? You're sitting there with 6 rods in play, and used none fish in the last turn. Now, this is a very heads-up play. Playing this trampoline rod is very important because it's nothing you have to do here, but it enters flopped, and so the next turn it could enter unflopped. And if that is the case, then you might want to play, say, a Penguin Who Minds Goodbyes or something else on the next turn and multiple cards. And so getting that flop resource into play now, pretty heads up. The downside to that is if he does draw the Penguin Who might bring a +1, he would have really liked to have kept that trampoline rod in hand. But I think realistically, he needs to be trying to win the vibe check, trying to win the game as quickly as possible, because it's not a question of if, but when Suarez will pull off the Bizbunk thing, and the round will essentially be over.
Okay, one thing we want to note here is that Kavothe opted to bounce a Inquisitive Penguin early, and that's with his Trampoline Rod. He didn't have to do it. He could have played the Trampoline Rod face up, would have come in unflopped. Ultimately, it was, equivalent on his board because he didn't have any 6-drops anyway, but he opted to bounce it. That's an interesting play, and it's something that I don't want us to gloss over too much. Remember, if you've got Extrovert Penguin in this deck, getting that extra 2 vibe from having an Inquisitive Penguin in hand, that's a great thing to have. However, Suarez, he's playing that Popcorn Penguin. I cannot imagine this is the first game that Kavothe has played against a Popcorn Penguin. He's returning his lowest vibe bait to his hand, and he's not going to get a chance to respond before Popcorn Penguin's ability goes off. It's an interesting play, and it's a bet that I can't imagine Kavothe made on accident. I'm not sure how it's going to pan out here, because now he's going to get one of his yellow Pudge production eaten up. And so you got to wonder if that was really the right thing to do. But I think that only time will tell to find out if it was something that was really worth that investment. Okay, looks like Suarez has played the Ascending Penguin, and now we are
two
straight into
so Ascending Penguin
Bizbunk territory.
and two popcorn and two Penguin is okay. Now, one question here is how do you get out of this, Kavothe? I mean, this looks very dire. Popcorn Penguin eating itself. Now, one thing you could do as Suarez is eat one of the Penguin who's okay instead with the Popcorn Penguin, just to keep it on the board so that Kavothe can do less things. But oh my goodness. Now, this is where this really gets crazy because this one Overwhelm with Knowledge will ice two cards because there's two Penguins in play, and he played it from his hand. It wasn't from his ice, so he gets to play it again. So it's going to actually ice 4 cards in addition to drawing 2 cards.
And the card that he's putting from his ice.
The rod. Yes.
Check out the card he just put into his ice. I mean, that's a card he can play from ice. So Suarez is definitely getting to things moving pretty quickly here with that Ascending Penguin. Now, I know you said earlier, Kavothe, how do you get out of this? Look, I hear you that it's definitely not the ideal situation to be in, but look, we've all know the yellow starter deck like the back of our hands, at least in this booth. And Kavothe's got Not Your Keys. It's a great answer. He has checked the yellow pages to search for more yellow pudge if he could just get one more yellow penguin out. So I think that it's a time issue here. You know, Kavothe was really racing, and now it looks like Suarez got the engine moving a little bit faster than Kavothe may have liked. But where we're at here is, you know, still a very competitive game. Looks like Kavothe is taking his turn here. He's got a good amount of rods in play. We've got 8, 10 on board. That means that with 4 cards in hand, 2 of them being actions, though, he couldn't hit 14 in play. But there's a pretty real chance for a moment there that Kavothe could actually end up with 14 cards in play and the highest 5 penguin this turn. Now, that certainly beats Suarez's engine.
That's true, but we need that one turn may not come. That one extra turn. Now, we've gotten a 3 yellow pudge here, which is good for Kavothe because that means that the yellow pages is turned on, but it may be too little too late. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. That being said, I mean, being 5-2 this deep into the tournament, and again, this is Swiss +2, so 5-2 is still very live for top 8 with the yellow starter deck. I mean, my hope is this is a player that sticks around in the ecosystem, comes back, and I think we'll see him at the top tables again if he does.
I mean, to come this far with the yellow starter deck is impressive enough. If he beats Bizbunk from one of the top players of all time, I mean, all time being a year, but certainly in this tournament, he's been really pulling.
Well, and we talk about Bizbunk this weekend, right? But not all Bizbunk is the same, and not all players the same. And I want to dive into that too. We've had a lot of players, especially from Flesh and Blood, who I've talked to this weekend that picked up Bizbunk recently, got some reps in with it. Some Magic players who said, "Oh, this may be similar to Hogak, Vengevine kind of situation." And these are a lot of players coming to the game. Suarez, however, is someone who has played hundreds of games in the online game. He is not casually picking this deck up. He is one of the best players in this room, if not the best players in the room. I think he won both of the side events yesterday, in the last 2 days, the 2 double downs that happened. And so certainly someone with a lot of familiarity with what's going on here. And this is a deck with a lot of complicated decisions. We're sort of glossing over to the important ones, but one of the things that defines Vibes is a lot of small decisions. What are you rodding? What are you icing from your rods with Overwhelm with Knowledge? When are you overwhelming with Knowledge? All these decisions really matter. What are you flopping to play your Overwhelm with Knowledge from your hand? These are decisions that may not always matter, but in aggregate, making them correctly does. And what we see here is just absolute artistry going on from Jonathan Suarez.
So it looks like Suarez has gotten a good amount moving. Now, it is finally action time, but Suarez, I want the audience to really appreciate how many cards he was able to move. I mean, it's just unbelievable. With that Bashful Swordsman...
Oh, and check the yellow pages that hit 3 cards.
Wow, okay. So
one of which is a Penguin Emperor +1, so it could even be 4 cards.
Now... You mentioned this earlier, and I think you're totally right, and I think it's going to be super interesting seeing it here. This is almost certainly the last cycle. In fact, we may not even get to another action time. Kavothe here, he's got those 3 penguins in hand, and fortunately, he's going to be able to play him before Suarez if he wins this vibe check. But no, by playing Check the Yellow Pages, he's forced himself to lose the vibe check. That means the next phase that happens here is Suarez's turn, and Suarez can win on turn. So, Kavothe here, he's made a great play. He's hit 3 penguins, which is awesome. He may not even get the chance to play.
He's certainly not going to. Suarez fanning out his deck, showing that there is 5 cards left. Vibe check was one that he won, drew a card, played a penguin that put some cards in the ice.
And there's Bismo.
Bismo and
And
a
uses
cheeky
the
way to end it
Bismo.
there
Wow.
because he stacked the triggers. So the Ascending Penguin trigger happened first from the Bismo entering, and then Bismo Penguin trigger happened.
Unbelievable.
That is what I'm talking about when I say this is someone with a lot of reps. There were many other lines there that probably also won, but that was the most elegant one. And
Totally.
what
I mean,
a
it
treat
was just
to
a
get to watch it. But
masterclass in that deck.
at the end of the day, both players absolutely excellent, making it deep. Suarez staying alive for top 8. Absolutely in contention. Again, this is Swiss +2, so you may be used to where X and 2 is, probably not going to make it. But
Sure.
here, this is very, very live. And so, what we're going to do now is, I think we're going to head probably into the last round of the Swiss.